Hey there, meteorologist Mike Griffith here for East Coast Weather Association, also for Carolina Weather Pro. And I just have some goodies here for you for the long range. It's about 1:50 p.m. here on Wednesday, April 26, 2017. And what I want to do is I want to take a look into the summer. And I want to take a look at some of the El Nino trends, some of the climate forecast system trends. Sometimes those climate forecast systems are to be taken with a grain of salt, but we can see if it agrees with an overall general trend. So, going into the rest of this week, we're looking at Thursday, this coming week here. This is the GEFS Ensemble, Global Ensemble Forecast System, and this is a bunch of model runs together. In the long range, what I like to look at is just a bunch of model runs combined and kind of taking an average here, and that's what we're looking at, or a mean. So if there's a good agreement with the mean, that can pretty much tell you what the trends are going to be in the future. So looking at this end of this week, into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're looking at above normal temperatures here, especially in the east. As a ridge builds, and then a cold front comes through, and then the heat just builds right back up again. And it's looking very, very warm here across this weekend, across much of the East Coast United States. Very, very chilly and cold across the Four Corners, and maybe up even the Texas Panhandle and up into Kansas here. Lots of cold air still remaining across northern Canada, which is kind of interesting for this time of year, because normally it starts to get a little bit warm. Remaining warm through this weekend, but then a cold front kind of comes through and just changes all that by early next week, the beginning of May, late April, early May. We go back to a cooler and wetter pattern compared to normal, because this jet stream coming in from the Pacific Ocean is just active with storms and rain, and the subtropical jet is also active in through here, which is just going to keep us cooler and wetter than usual. This is not so much cold as it is low pressure, as it is chillier air than usual for this time of year. Nothing extreme. It's not like it's a huge Arctic outbreak or anything like that. It's just cool and storminess from the storm systems that kind of pummel the west coast, and we get to what's left over here in the east. And that looks like it goes through the middle of May, cooler and wetter across much of the eastern part of the United States, probably cloudy, not feeling like summer at all here as we go into the first week of May. And that trend kind of continues through May 5th and the 6th, all the way into the 7th. It's just looking really cool and stormy and wet across much of the east. Again, that's what this coolness is for. And if you look at this, even down across Mexico into the southern Central American areas, it looks like they're cooler than usual too, probably just because of the subtropical jet that is just so active, and the Pacific jet is very active, and they combine and just kind of make a big wet and cloudy scenario across much of the United States, especially the east, and even down into Mexico here through the middle of May. Still very chilly and rainy through the middle of May. It's looking like we're not going to be going too warm here at all. This is just interesting here across Mexico and Central America, Nicaragua, Cuba, even looking like a bunch of below normal temperatures here. It's just cooler than average. Nothing crazy, but it's interesting that this jet stream is so active down through here. And what I suspect is that there's going to be an El Nino that's going to come back moderate to strong. Still continued wet and cool in the East Coast through the middle of May. Alaska and Northwest Canada, Northwest Territories basking in the heat. That's not good for melting the ice caps up around there. And in turn, it just gives us an active jet stream pattern down here, and cool and wet all the way into the middle of May easily. And I want to back it up a little bit here. Look at this. This is across Belize and Central America, Nicaragua, and Mexico. And it's just looking crazy. Like, it's just like a big active jet stream pattern, a lot cooler than usual here across much of the United States. Let's go to the actual jet stream pattern here, and I want to show you in the near future here. Here's what we're looking at: the screaming jet stream across the Pacific Ocean. It kind of it hits the west coast and dumps off these disturbances, which kind of track up into Canada right here like this. And it really just kind of keeps us cool and stormy here across the United States, even some severe weather outbreaks. But we're going to be transitioning into a more of a cooler and wetter pattern. Here comes the southern branch of the jet stream, and this is probably why we saw those below normal temperature anomalies here across Mexico and even down into Cuba and southern Florida. This southern branch jet stream is just going to be active all the way into the middle of May, which is going to bring lots of rain here to the East Coast and cooler than normal conditions. There's no pronounced ridging at all anywhere in the eastern part of the United States, which is going to keep us below normal. And here comes another jet streak here across the northern Pacific Ocean, which is going to spit out a lot of storm systems here to keep on pummeling the west coast. And that also just means it's going to be an active storm pattern here across much of the central part of the United States, especially the southern branch of the jet stream, as it just remains very, very active here across much of the East Coast. And let me show you what I'm talking about as far as sea surface temperature anomalies right now. This is courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. And it looks like we are having a lot of warm water here across Hawaii and the Pacific Ocean. Right here is the area that we look for El Nino, and it looks like it's kind of neutral right now. Some spots of cool water mixed in with the warm water. This warm sea surface temperatures across much of the Pacific is going to be a lot of rising air, a lot of storminess, and this is what's going to keep the jet stream, the southern branch of the jet stream, active across Mexico and across the southern United States, even the Gulf of Mexico, which is going to kind of keep any type of tropical activity away and shear off anything that comes into close contact with the United States. So thinking it's probably going to be a below normal tropical season here across the East Coast because of this warm ocean water here in the Pacific. Rising air here means sinking air here. And when you have sinking air, that's kind of the opposite of what you want for hurricanes. So maybe some good news for people down in the Gulf Coast and the Southeast Coast, because it's going to not be real favorable for any type of crazy hurricanes coming, especially with all this activity here across the Pacific Ocean and the very active southern branch of the jet stream, more than likely into the summer. Now let's talk a little bit about even the longer range here as we go into the first and second week of May. Looking like it's going to be above normal for the rest of this week, and that's what it's picking up on. This is the CFS Climate Forecast System weeklies. This goes into the 2nd of May, but then going into the a third of May, into middle of May, temperatures drop off significantly here across the East Coast, as I was showing you. That agrees with the GEFS. This is below normal temperatures here in the East Coast. Really just cool and wet and stormy and rainy, and a lot of that is going to be what we can expect across much of the East Coast. And looking into the monthlies for the CFS V2 climate forecast model, we're looking here, we're going to select May through June and July of 2017. And this climate model is saying that we're going to be above average here in the East. And I'm not quite sure that I'm going to be buying that, given the active pattern of the southern branch of the jet stream and those warm sea surface temperatures. I think we're going to remain very wet and cool here across much of the East. So not quite sure I'm going to be buying this, but according to this model, it's just saying that it's summer. It's not going to really have a bias and say that we're going to be really, really warm now. It has a bias up here in Alaska and up here in Canada, but it would make sense that we would be below normal down here, because if this is a ridge, then this would be a trough in the east here. So it would make more sense that we would have the warmth up here in Alaska and then the cool conditions here across the East Coast. That's for May, June, and July. And we're going to be looking at August August, September, October, if I can spit out the words there. It goes back to kind of a neutral pattern here for the climate forecast system model. Again, this is saying above normal. I'm not really buying this again. I'm thinking that this is going to still remain below normal into August, September. October may be a little on the warm side, but again, this is just neutral. This isn't really any type of anomaly. This is just kind of a normal output by this this climate system forecast model. Now, if you want a little bit of a treat here, and please take this with a grain of salt, don't leave any nasty comments or saying I'm hyping or anything like that, but it's a lot of cold air up here in northern Canada for October, November, December, which could be in place for the coming winter. However, if we're going to be having a El Nino, which is going to be the case for this coming winter, that will overpower a lot of the trends here in the East Coast. Is going to keep us a warm and wet winter here across the East Coast. So let me show you what I'm talking about right here. This is the plumes for the El Nino Southern Oscillation. These are a bunch of different computer models run together for the coming months here as we go into April, May, June, July, June, July, August, and into the winter time here, September, October, November, December. And it really looks like a lot of these models are clustering around a weak El Nino here across the span of this summer and into the fall and even into the early winter here. Well, we're going to have to see how weak this El Nino is going to be. But when you do have a weak El Nino, you tend to have a cooler and wetter than normal summer across much of the eastern part of the United States, which is what I'm thinking is going to happen for this summer. And then as we go into the wintertime, as we have a weaker El Nino, which could actually kind of go back to moderate or strong, it's going to keep our wintertime a little bit warmer and wetter than average here in the East Coast, maybe even just kind of warm and dry. If it's a moderate El Nino. And that's what the computer models are saying right here for the coming months. They're clustering above the 0 degree line, zero sea surface temperature anomaly value in degrees Celsius. This is neutral right here. Only a couple computers are going below the neutral line into a La Nina, but most of the computer models are clustering for a weak El Nino, again, which means a cooler and wetter than usual summer, and also a winter coming up that's going to be on the warm side. Once again, I hate to say it to snow lovers, but as long as we keep getting these El Ninos, and if they overpower the water right off the southern Alaska coast, right in here, then this storm track is just going to remain active across the southern United States, bringing moist conditions, wet conditions, and cooler than usual conditions, but not cold. As long as this remains active, it's hard to get outbreaks in from the Canadian areas. So if this trend keeps up through the fall and the winter, expect wetter than usual, but warmer than usual. So not a lot of snow, but a lot of rain. You want to have this water right here off the Alaska. A lot of it you want to have to be a big area of warm water, so that you can actually get a nice ridge of high pressure here, and that will actually drive the East Coast into the trough in the below normal conditions. But that does not look like it's going to be happening. Instead, it looks like it's just going to be more active across the southern branch of the jet stream, and that's going to bring us, once again, cooler, wetter than usual conditions across the summer. Not expecting any type of extreme ridging or any type of extreme heat waves in the United States. Your normal, usual summer weather. Some days could get some streaks, but nothing above normal at all here. And going into the fall and the winter, looking like it's going to be kind of just average to maybe above average temperature-wise. That's all right now for the long-term outlook for the long-range forecast. I'm East Coast Weather Association meteorologist Mike Griffith. Find us on Facebook at ECWXA and also online at ecwxa.com. Also, I run a page called Carolina Weather Pro on Facebook. Give that a like as well. And make sure you like East Coast Weather Association on Facebook, and we'll continue to post these long-term outlooks, especially as it gets into hurricane season here. And we're going to start focusing on stuff like that too, also the upcoming winter. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I am Mike Griffith. Nice to meet you. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll be talking at you soon. Have a great rest of your April and a great early spring, everybody.